So in my recent fall TBR slash fall book recommendations video, I said that if I didn't get through my fall TBR, I would make a can I get through my fall TBR video. But instead of that, I decided I would just make a getting through my fall TBR video, because then I'm actually actively making the choice to read those books. Because I know me, I have way too many books, like either if I own it physically or that I just have like online or in my mind or on Kindle Unlimited that I want to read. And so I feel like I just have too many books, and if I don't prioritize the books that I want to actually have, like I've explicitly stated that I want to read in the next few months, I'm just not going to read them. So this is why we're doing this. Now, is the first book I'm talking about a book that's actually on that list? No, it's not. That's besides the point. The first book that I have actually already started, but I'm only like 17 pages into, so I'm like barely anything into it, is Phantasma by, I think, Kaylee Smith, I want to say. I'm going to tell you why I started with this book and not another book that's actually physically on my like actual TBR shelf that's been collecting dust for the past few months. The reason is I watched Sarah Curley's fall reading vlog video, and in that book, one of the books she read was Phantasma, and it sounded like really good, but obviously I hear a lot of books that are really, really good, and I always like shelve them in the back of my mind, and I'm like, I want to read that book someday. I add it to my Goodreads and then I kind of forget about it. This case was different. Phantasma, this book was calling to me. I'm not even joking. After I saw that video, which by the way was like yesterday, I just couldn't like stop thinking about it for some reason. Like, that book is about basically these two sisters that go into a kind of deadly competition and something to do with the devil, which kind of sounds a little bit like Caraval, which I kind of just read, but it sounded really good. It's really gothic. She said it's perfect for reading in like the spooky season, and today is October 1st, so we are entering the fall and spooky season. Now, as I said, could not get this book out of my mind. I was thinking about it all day yesterday about if I wanted to read it. Wake up this morning, I'm literally thinking about this book. I haven't even read it. I'm thinking about this book. I finished my last book last night, and this morning I still wasn't really sure what book I wanted to read next, and if I wanted, so I knew I should, like, something in my mind was like I should read the books on my TBR, because I've been having this for a while. I've been waiting around for them, but I could not get this book out of my mind. And the length was also a little bit intimidating to me, because it is just like 500 pages, so it is like pretty like long for a fantasy book. And I just read The God of the Woods, which is also pretty long. But like I said, I could not get this book out of my head, and I don't know why. This has never happened to me. I have never had a book that's stuck in my mind this much of wanting to read it. I pick it up, I'm 17 pages in. I'm like 5 to 10 pages in, and I'm like, this writing is amazing. I'm eating this book up. I literally have never felt this way. I haven't felt this way in a while about a book, but literally 5 to 10 pages in, the writing, absolutely delectable. It's so like dark and gothic, and like, just, I don't know, the writing style, I'm eating it up. I really love it. I'm literally less than 20 pages in, but the atmosphere, 10 out of 10. Writing so far, 10 out of 10. This also is making me realize I need decoration on this wall. This room is too bare. But yeah, super long intro. I needed to tell a story, but that is just my really long-winded way of saying that I have started Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and I'm really, really loving it. As I said, I have not felt this way about a book in a really long time. I've only had once 5-star this year, the 7-year slip. I read it back in, I want to say, the first couple months of the year. Since then, I have not had a 5-star. I don't want to jinx anything, but so far, I'm really loving Phantasma. I'm only 20 pages in. Like, who am I? What am I saying? Yeah, I will definitely keep reading. The second I finish this clip, I will immediately go to bed and start reading this book again, because I just can't wait to get back into the world and continue on. But yeah, that is my really long-winded way of saying that this is a getting through my fall TBR, fall reading vlog. Hi besties, it's a few days later, but I have officially finished Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and honestly I had a really great experience reading this book, and I really wanted it to be a 5-star, but in the end I'm giving this like somewhere in the 4.5 star range. So still a really strong book. It just didn't hit that like 5-star level, 5-star feeling for me. But I don't think I talked about what this book is about. So this book follows two sisters, Ophelia and Genevieve, and their mother has recently died, and then later on Ophelia finds out that they have been in debt for quite a while and they owe some money to the bank. This all, by the way, takes place in New Orleans. So her sister says that she would take care of it and goes to this deadly competition called Phantasma that kind of travels around. It's sort of like a dark Caraval almost. It's basically, the premise is that it's like run by devils and there's like 9 levels, I think, based on the 9 circles of hell, and each level is kind of based on each circle, and participants either like they make it through, they're allowed to forfeit, but if they don't make it through they die. And that's like kind of what the stakes are. Like if you don't make the right decisions, do the right things, you will end up dying. So that's kind of like the dark twisty aspect to it. But Ophelia follows her sister Genevieve to this like competition, and it sort of follows the story of their journey during this game. So as I said, I gave this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The first thing right off the bat is that as soon as I started reading the book, the writing just immediately captured me. It had this like really lush, dark, gothic atmosphere to it, and I feel like the author did a really great job of creating that atmosphere. And I don't know, it just lent itself really well to the story because it surrounds like dark concepts like devils and sins and just dark stuff like that. But yeah, so as soon as Ophelia went into Phantasma, that is kind of where my issues started up happening. I feel like in the beginning the atmosphere was really strong, but as soon as we got into Phantasma, so the rules of Phantasma are is that everyone's broken up into little groups of around, I don't know, 20 people I want to say. I might be completely misremembering, but there's like separated into smaller groups that are on individual like floors, wards, I guess. And for the first 7 out of 9 levels, you can't leave your living area, like the floor that you're on, which I feel like really confined the setting a lot and sort of created a little bit of a boring atmosphere, I guess, because you were kind of in the same place all the time. They were either in their rooms, they were either in the dining room, which is where everyone ate, and then the level started at night, so then there would be like chapters for the different levels. So yeah, I feel like that rule kind of made the story a little bit more confined and just not as interesting. Another thing was that as during Phantasma, Ophelia meets this man named Blackwell. So Ophelia is the main character of the story, and while she is in Phantasma, she meets this man named Blackwell, and she has to sort of do a bargain with him, and he sort of has his own motives for creating this bargain with her, and he is supposed to help her out during the trials in return for her helping him out with whatever like he wants. So that kind of was my other issue with this, is that every time she would go into a level, she would immediately call Blackwell, and then Blackwell would kind of just tell her what to do. Like he'd be like, oh, you need to do this to get out, or you need to do this to solve this and get the key to get out. So I feel like that one, like, it didn't really provide a lot of tension, because like she kind of just got told the answer that she needed to get out. And I feel like the whole point of this is that you're under these really like tense circumstances, but you like are running out of time and you can't figure it out. But I feel like that portion never really came to fruition, because she kind of just got told what she needed to do, and she did it like fairly quickly without being super close to ever like not making it out of any level. And I feel like if there was more tension in that, it definitely would have elevated the story, because it is marketed as a dark fantasy romance, and I feel like it definitely could have been darker than it was, especially since this is an adult book. And that's sort of related to my next point, which is that some of the levels honestly didn't even feel that dangerous. The whole point of this competition is that as you go on, the levels get harder and harder, and then the devils also always bring up like, oh, if you thought the last level was hard, then you might as well forfeit before the next level, to kind of show the danger. But honestly, it wasn't even, I feel like some of the levels were honestly fairly quick and not easy, but like fairly easy for like how late into the levels they were. Like I feel like some of the levels were later into like the numbers, and they definitely should have been harder than they were. So I don't know, that was definitely something else. I know I'm saying a lot of stuff that I found issue with, and I still gave the book 4.5 stars, but honestly I really liked the relationship between Blackwell and Ophelia. I thought it was really cute. This book does get pretty spicy, so there are a few sex scenes in here. If you're that is something that you want to look out for, whether you like it or don't, that is something that is in the book. So yeah, definitely there could have been some improvements with the book, but overall I don't know, I still really enjoyed it. I think one of the reasons that I really enjoyed it is because like honestly every time I wasn't reading this book I was thinking about this book constantly. Like I was just waiting for whenever I could go back to read this book again, and I feel like that doesn't happen to me with books a lot these days. So that is one of the reasons I feel like my experience was enhanced, was because I was always thinking about the book. And I will say, like, the writing, I really loved it, the writing style, and that really lent itself well. Another thing is that this book does have OCD representation, so the main character Ophelia does deal with OCD. Thought that was a really interesting aspect to the story and not something that I see a lot in books. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed the writing and the atmosphere and the whole like competition aspect to it. Like I love a book that has a competition or trials or games or anything like that. Like I love that in books, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But yeah, there's some things that would have been improved. Oh, another thing that I forgot to mention is that this book is pretty long. It's like almost 500 pages, and there are 9 levels, as I said, to this competition. So after a while, combined with the aspect of them being confined to their floors until level 7 was finished, and the fact that there are 9 levels, it just felt like really long and it got kind of a little bit slow and boring in the middle, just because it felt like 9 levels honestly feels like a little bit too much. Like I get the reason for it because of the 9 circles of hell, but it just felt a little bit too much because after a while it's like, okay, we kind of get the whole thing, time to move on to something else. I feel like if the author had done honestly just a couple levels less, I feel like it would have like made the story more fast-paced and added more like dynamic in it. I don't know if that's a word, to the story, because after a while things just kind of got a little bit too of the same thing. So all in all, I just wish we had a little bit like more fast-paced sometimes and maybe cut the book down a little bit, as well as just exploring more of the manor itself that they were living in other than just the floor that they were on, because being in that like space for so much of a 500-page book obviously made things a little bit repetitive after a while. But I still loved the book, like don't get me wrong. But yeah, those were some of the issues that kind of brought me down from like a 5-star to like a 4-star. But I don't know what I'm gonna read next now, because I have a lot of books that I want to read. And I just got a notification that a hold came in for me at my library that I have to go pick up, but that book isn't even on the TBR that I said I wanted to read. So really, I don't know what to do. I will get back to you when I'm choosing a book. Hey, I finally have stuff in my couch. I don't have a bare bones room anymore, but I have officially started my next book. I picked this out a couple of days ago actually, and I am about 125 pages into it, but I started None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So this one is a super popular mystery thriller. I think it became popular last year. I think that's when it came out in 2023. And it's about this woman named Josie who goes into this restaurant slash pub for her 45th birthday with her husband. And there she sees this woman named Alex, who is a podcaster. And she realizes that they both have the same birthday. They're both turning the same age, and they were both like born in the same hospital. So yeah, so Josie kind of goes up to Alex after she figures out that Alex has a podcast, and she sort of asks to be on it, saying that she has a story. So that's how the story sort of starts, is that they sort of form this relationship with Josie being a guest on Alex's podcast and kind of sharing her story. And there's a lot of stuff happening in her life. She was definitely groomed because she met her husband Walter at the age of 15 and he was 42, and they got married when she was 19, so definitely very weird vibes there. And she's also like has like a weird family, like people don't really like they think she's strange and odd and that her children are weird. So overall a very weird experience with her. And so Alex is sort of finding out that as she is researching more about Josie and then listening to more of her story. As I said, I'm only 125 pages in, so I don't know, I'm not too much into like the mystery aspect of it, but Josie has started sharing her story a little bit, and then it's definitely a little bit strange and there's like weird stuff going on. One of my main theories is that either Josie is kind of now weirdly obsessed with Alex. Like Alex seems to have this perfect life with this perfect husband, amazing house, amazing kids, amazing like family from the outside, even though she's having issues of her own. But Josie, since she sort of feels like trapped in her marriage of this man that's 30 years older than her, she kind of fantasizes about Alex's life and just kind of becomes obsessed with her and her lifestyle. And so we're kind of getting a little bit the start of that obsession. So yeah, not too much going on. I don't want to talk too much about it as well because it is like a mystery thriller, but I've heard like really good things about it. I think I've heard this one has a pretty good plot twist, which I love plot twists that can get me. I love like being shocked at an ending of a mystery thriller, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I should be getting through this pretty quickly because it is a mystery thriller. I just have to like sit myself down and like give myself time to read. But once I like get into it, it was really easy to get into as well, like writing and story wise. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this book. Later, story of my life for these videos, but I have finished None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I finished this last night and I ended up giving this 3 stars. So like, didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was just kind of honestly a really meh experience for me reading it. Like I was interested in the premise, like the premise sounded cool and promising and it started really interesting. Like I was intrigued by what was going on, but eventually like it didn't really do anything other than that. Like other than the premise itself of basically, as I said in my last clip, about how there's these 2 women, Josie and Alex, and then Alex starts seeing Josie as like more than what she's telling her, and we kind of see Josie's like strange actions. Alex is seeing it, we're seeing it, and we all know that Josie is not like, maybe not telling the truth about everything that she's talking about, and that there's more to her and that we shouldn't trust her basically. Like we all know this, the reader knows this, Alex knows this, and it's not really a surprise. And this book I would describe as more of a build-up of that rather than like an explosive ending where it's like a big reveal and we find out stuff. Like there wasn't really a huge reveal like that where I was like shocked or like I just completely didn't see coming. It was super like left field and out of the blue. There was nothing like that honestly in this book, which is kind of something I like in thrillers. I like to be super surprised at what's going on, which is why I love Frida McFadden's thrillers so much, because she does a really good job of like completely throwing you off and then coming up with like the wildest thing that could happen that you would never think of. At least I would never think of. And so I was kind of going into this expecting sort of the same structure, but this book is more about like Josie and Alex, and then Josie is like, we're kind of getting deeper into her world, and it's sort of more of an uneasy feeling throughout the book of like, we know that there's something going on, like Josie is not who she seems. And although of course there's a few reveals at the end, none of them were super surprising, and the ending was kind of open-ended. It was more like, who can you trust, like what's actually true type of ending, because obviously the title is None of This Is True, so the author had to leave you guessing at the end of like what's actually true and what's not. So I did appreciate that. It's just that honestly this book was just not super interesting to me, and I don't know, I wasn't like, I didn't feel the need to have to pick this book up, which I like with thrillers. I feel like I want a thriller that I can just like not stop thinking about and I have to pick up, which also Frida McFadden books do give me that feeling of like I have to know what's going on. But this one honestly I was okay with putting it down, again because it didn't really feel like a thriller. It felt more like a, not even a mystery, just like a literary fiction. Like, it's definitely a thriller, but a literary fiction with like dark undertones almost. Not even a literary fiction. I don't know how to describe it. Just, I wouldn't describe it as like the thrillers that I'm looking for, I guess. Another thing is that Alex is a podcaster. She's doing a podcast on this whole thing about Josie and her journey, and we find out that it's actually been picked up by Netflix, and Netflix is doing a like series based on this podcast. But throughout the book there would be, I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, so basically they called it the podcast and the show are both called Hi, I'm Your Birthday Twin, because that's what Josie's first words to Alex were the day of their birthday. And then you can see like, I'll say like the title, and then I'll say Netflix original series, and then I'll kind of go into a little description of like basically like not even a script, but just like kind of what's playing out in that episode, I guess. But honestly, that did not work for me. Like, sometimes they'll be describing like random visuals. Like, I don't know, the structure of them were kind of weird. Like, it didn't even feel like a series. It felt like more like interconnected visuals with the podcast audio playing in the background, which I feel like is so hard to explain. I feel like if they just had the transcript of the podcast itself, it would have been more, I guess, interesting. But I guess because they were trying to bring in other perspectives and other characters' perspectives of Josie, they decided to make it like a series. But I don't know. I feel like it would have been better if it was just a podcast, maybe. I don't know. I was just really confused about what was going on with that, and I didn't understand it. But yeah, so 3 stars. Like, I enjoyed it, I guess. Like, it wasn't like I wasn't enjoying my time reading it. Like, I was, like, when I was reading it, I was like wanting to figure out what was going on, but I just wish there was like more going on with the story. I felt it was a little bit quieter than what I guess I'm looking for in a thriller. I'm looking for really loud, explosive, like almost movie, like blockbuster, like thriller with like really crazy plot twists and reveals, and this just didn't give me that. But I've heard a lot of really good things about some of her other books, so I will definitely be picking those up. But this one was just a little bit of a miss for me. Then I already know what my next book is, because at first I was like, what do I want to read next? And I was thinking When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, because this is a really, really popular like fantasy romance book that I've seen online, but it is pretty long. It's like 700 pages. So I was like, I don't know if I want to read that. Perfect timing, because last night I went to Sabah Tahir's book signing here in Seattle for the release of Air, which is her newest book. It's in the Ember Quartet like world actually, and it follows some characters that are like kind of related to them. Like, one of the characters I know is related to one of the main characters in that series, and then some other characters. And all I know is that it's following a orphan, outcast, and a prince, and that's all I know. And that's all I want to know going into this book. This one is like a lot bigger than I thought it would be. It's like almost 500 pages, and I don't know like why, but big books intimidate me. I've been reading a lot of them recently, so maybe the tides are turning. But yeah, I went to her book signing. It was really, really good. It was with Christine Day, who I have not heard of. She's a middle grade author, and she personalized my book for me. And yeah, I'm really excited to read this. This book was not on my radar at all for this video, and then I realized that this signing was happening and that I was gonna get the copy of this book. And believe me, if I don't read it now, I won't read it for like another year. Like, as much as I really want to read this book, it would have gone right on my TBR cart and I wouldn't have picked it up for like a year. So I'm really glad that I'm actually reading this like right away, because otherwise I wouldn't have read it that soon. Also, this book is stunning. The cover, absolutely stunning. The naked like hardcover without the dust jacket, also absolutely stunning. Like, whoever designed this book actually ate so hard. Ate so bad, if you will. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I have not started this book at all, but I will definitely let you know once I have like started this, and if I have any thoughts about it. So there's been a slight change of plans. First of all, I got a haircut. It's a little bit shorter than I wanted, but we're gonna go past that. And it's been like, I want to say almost 2 weeks, and I am still reading Air. I'm still only at 50 pages. Actually, by this point I'm like 70 pages in and I'm reading this so slowly, and truly I feel a reading slump coming on while like reading this book, and it's totally not the book's fault. Totally not the book's fault. Like, I am enjoying what I read of the story so far. I just don't know if it's like the right time for me to be reading this book. Again, this is why I stopped making TBRs. I stopped doing monthly TBRs a really long time ago because I could never really stick to them. But yeah, this book, I think this is why I'm like such a big proponent of mood reading, at least for me, because truly if I'm not in the mood for a book, I am just doing disservice to that book because I'm just not gonna enjoy it as maybe another time that I'm like really excited to pick up this book. And I'm not saying that I'm not excited about this book at all, because I really am. I love Sabaa Tahir. I love her work, I love her writing, I love like her worlds and her characters and just the way she writes her books. I just don't know if this is like the right time for me to be picking this up, or I think I'm just gonna be reading it at my own pace, like really slowly if I want to, because I don't want to force myself to read something I don't want to. I think it also could be because this is a slightly longer book. Like, it's like not even that long, like 500 pages, but it is a little bit longer than I'm used to for the books that I usually read. So I think the length might be intimidating me a little bit more as well. Another book that I finished literally on the plane ride home to California is The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, so I guess I can talk about that. I specifically wanted to read this for the plane because I knew it would be the perfect plane read. I think her books are like really good for that environment. You're like sitting in one place, they usually hook you really quickly, and I'm like usually flying through her books and wanting to figure out what's happening next. So I read a big chunk of that on the plane and ended up finishing it like a day later. Honestly, it never takes me more than 2 days to finish a Frida McFadden book. But yeah, I read that, and honestly I did not like it as much as I wanted to. I ended up giving it 2 stars, which completely, like, obviously not expecting. I thought I would give it at least 3 or higher like before, because that's usually what I give her books. But this one I just did not enjoy as much as her other books. I felt like it was a little bit more predictable than some of her other books, and honestly like the ending and the climax was just really underwhelming and just did not go up to the expectations at all that I'm used to. I feel like as an author of her caliber, like just the way that she wrote this ending, I was like, that I just didn't feel like it was really satisfying to me or was anything close to some of the other endings I read from her. And then I saw something on Goodreads that said that she's released like 3 or 4 books in the year of 2024, and then I was actually thinking about it. I was like, that's actually so true. And because that review was talking about how maybe like her quality of writing is suffering a little bit because she might be rushing through these books a little bit because she's been releasing them so quickly, because this book just came out like this month or last month, and she literally has a new book coming out in January. Will I be reading that? Yes, of course I will. I feel like she's the type of author that I would pick up like new work from her just because like it's a thriller, it's fun, and I know she has that ability to like really shock me and make like really like surprising twists that I do not see coming. So I know she has the potential, but this book just fell really flat for me. If you didn't know, The Boyfriend is about this woman named Sydney, and she's kind of struggling with dating. She's kind of on her last straw. She really wants to find like the one, and one day she meets this like perfect guy, but obviously he's not as perfect as he like portrays himself to be. And then it's dual timelines, so we're following 2 different times. We're following present day with Sydney and like her life, and then the past time with this guy named Tom and his life basically in high school. I don't want to give like too many spoilers for these books because obviously it's a thriller and I don't want to spoil anything related to it. But yeah, I don't know if the dual timeline like worked for me. I feel like the current timeline was a little bit boring, like not much was happening. The main character was not very smart at all. She was putting herself in situations all the time that were obviously not good for her, and I don't know, she just didn't seem like a very capable character. Anyways, so yeah, that was kind of a flop. Anyway, I ended up reading technically 3 books in this video. because I read The Boyfriend, I read None of This Is True, and I read Phantasma. And I had a wide range of ratings. I had Phantasma, which I gave like 4.5 stars. By the way, I still cannot stop thinking about that book, so I'll have to rethink on my rating for that one. And then None of This Is True was like a solid 3-star, and then The Boyfriend was like a solid 2-star for me. So really a mix of ratings here. Here's to hoping that the next books I read are better. I did cross my reading goal though, which was really cool in this video. So I have officially read 52 out of my 50 books at the time of this, like me filming this right now, this clip. But yeah, let me know down below if you read any of these books, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.